What is up, guys? My name is Guadagni with 5 Tool Sports Science right here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. All right, we got a video coming to you. This study is proving arm strength equals pitching velocity, and we are going to talk a little bit about why. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so this study comes from Cross and others. Austin, Higgins, Cody, Dziak. I don't know how to pronounce all their names, but good study. Relationships among shoulder rotational strength, range of motion, pitching kinetics, and pitch velocity in collegiate baseball pitchers. So they looked at 13 pitchers. It's not a huge sample size, but it does go to show kind of what we preach a lot about here about building arm strength and how that's going to help you throw harder, but also keep your arm healthier. Okay, so basically what the study found, stronger arms throw harder and handle more stress. So pitchers with higher ER and IR strength threw significantly faster. I think they just did isometric testing. Stronger arms absorbed more shoulder joint force safely, reducing your injury risk. And then looking at passive mobility, range of motion had no link to velocity or joint loading. All right, so basically what they were just finding is that the stronger arms were going to be able to throw harder and healthier. That's a huge, huge, huge finding. All right. So let's talk a little bit about why. So I think the best way to illustrate this, I like to look at it like a trebuchet. A lot of people talk about a catapult. I like to look at it from a trebuchet because I feel like the trebuchet can kind of show us the whole body. All right, so you have your frame, all right, you have your pivot, you have your beam, and then you have a sling which launches your payload. All right, so I look at this like your frame is your legs, the pivot is your hips, the beam is your trunk, the sling is your arm launching the payload, which in our case is going to be a baseball. All right, so we know from the kinetic chain that it's not just looking at one thing. We can't just look at the sling and be like, well, the arm just has to be really strong and that's our answer. No, you have to look at it in its entirety from a whole holistic approach. We have to look at the legs, back leg, front leg. We got to look at our hips, right? We have to look at our trunk, okay, which is like the beam. And then we got to look at the sling like the arm, okay? So if we have breakdown anywhere in the kinetic chain, it's gonna hinder our ability to throw harder and it's gonna hinder our ability to throw healthier. Okay, but what can happen is we can build the frame, the pivot, the beam super strong, but our sling is made out of dental floss or something, or just it's too weak. All right, so that you've got this big, powerful frame and pivot and beam that can absolutely launch the sling and the payload, but it's so much force that the arm can break down. All right, and it can get injured. So what we're doing when you're really strengthening the arm is you're creating a stronger sling. So imagine instead of dental floss, you've made this out of chain link, right? So now it doesn't matter how hard that your frame, your pivot, and your beam launches the sling. It's going to be strong. It's going to be robust. It's going to have the best chance of not breaking down. So that's why shoulder strength is so important to create the compressive force that allows your body to launch your sling, in this case the arm, as hard as possible and put velocity onto the baseball, all right? So internal rotators, all right, so our shoulder going in is going to generate late phase power, all right, so no internal rotation strength is going to be no gas. If you can't get that late phase power from external rotation to internal rotation, it's going to be hard for you to throw gas. Your external rotators are your brakes, right? So it's decelling the arm. The arm is wanting to pull out of socket because it's rotating at 7,000 degrees per second, some up to 9,000 degrees per second in some. It's the fastest movement recorded in a laboratory, fastest human movement recorded in a laboratory. That is a ridiculous amount of force trying to basically dislocate your shoulder from its socket. And it's the muscles that are keeping everything compressed and holding it in there. So you have to have a strong arm to do that, all right? So strong arms handle velocity. Weak arms are going to leak energy and break down. So if your arm is weak and you're throwing hard, you're kind of cooked, man. You're setting yourself up for a ton of injury, all right? But if you've got a strong arm, it's going to help you throw hard and it's going to help you throw healthier. Again, it's just going back to the sling. It's creating a strong sling to keep you healthy and to keep you throwing it hard. Okay, so strength loss is going to equal fatigue, it's going to equal mechanical compensations, and it's going to equal inconsistency. So grip and external rotation strength and internal rotation strength, they're going to drop before velocity or command. So when you're pitching and you start fatiguing, that's going to be the first thing that starts to show up is a drop in strength level. All right. Weakness leads to mechanical breakdowns. So you're going to start doing things, you know, like early trunk rotation. You're going to start doing things like arm drag, where if you're early trunk rotating and this arm is getting caught behind, you're going to have poor timing in your delivery. That's going to make velocity suffer, but that's also going to start adding more load to your joints, more load to your shoulder, more load to your elbow. And that's when injuries can start occurring. Fatigue is going to be one of the biggest things that's going to lead to injuries. All right. And then if you're not tracking strength, you're kind of just flying blind. Okay. So this is where like dynamometer testing, where you can do something as simple like we've got a little dynamometer tester here. You just set it up to a functional trainer. He's doing an isometric strength test. He's got his phone right in front of him so we can look at the strength levels. He's right now doing an external rotation, pulling back as hard as he can. Flip it around. You can do internal rotation. We can do horizontal abduction. You can get little dynamometers for pinch grip or anything like that. Dr. Ryan Croton's got a great company, Arm Care. They're killing it with the strength testing and stuff. So there's tons of stuff for dynamometer testing to track how strong your arm is. And I like using this in a training setting, so he's challenging himself to pull harder and get stronger in an isometric exercise to build that stronger sling and arm, right? But you need to be tracking it for a number of reasons, from a performance perspective, from an injury prevention perspective, and it gives you a ton of data and feedback on how to program while you're in season, how to program your off-season throwing programs, when to push, when to pull back. There's just so much benefit to it, all right? So this study that came out in like 2022, 2023, it shows directly that stronger arms in external rotation and internal rotation are going to create more compressive force. It's going to allow you to throw harder, and it's going to help you keep your arm healthy. So I hope this was an easy way to kind of understand the importance of using dynamometers and arm care exercises in your training to help you throw harder and healthier. All right, guys, hope it helps.